Hello class, Norman Stevens here. I'd like to go over Chapter 4, the chapter checkpoint, and review the questions and answers. Please let me know if you have any questions about my explanations by sending me an email. First question states, explain how each of the following events changes the demand for or supply of air travel. First scenario is that airfares tumble while long-distance bus fares don't change. And a change in the price of airfares does not change either the demand for or the supply of air travel. That is, the demand and supply lines do not shift in either direction. What it does is that it changes the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied of air travel. Points along the demand and supply lines change, but not the actual lines. The price of jet fuel rises. The rise in the price of jet fuel decreases the supply of air travel because it raises the cost of producing air travel. Airlines reduce the number of flights each day. The reduction in the number of flights decreases the supply of air travel. People expect airfares to increase next summer. The result of that is that the current demand for air travel increases when people expect airfares to increase next summer because people fly now when airfares are relatively cheaper rather than next summer. The price of train travel falls. Train travel is a substitute for air travel. So a fall in the price of train travel decreases the demand for air travel. Rather than flying by air, people can choose to take the train. And finally, the price of a pound of air cargo increases. Transporting cargo by air is a substitute in production for transporting people by air, so the rise in the price of air cargo decreases the supply of air travel for people. Next, use the laws of supply and demand, or demand and supply, to explain whether the statements in problems 2 and 3 are true or false. In your explanation, distinguish between a change in demand and a change in the quantity demanded, and between a change in supply and a change in the quantity supplied. Question 2 states, the United States does not allow oranges from Brazil, the world's largest producer of oranges, to enter the United States. If Brazilian oranges were sold in the United States, oranges and orange juice would be cheaper. That statement is true. Allowing Brazilian oranges into the United States increases the supply of oranges, and the supply curve shifts rightward. The equilibrium price of an orange falls, and the equilibrium quantity increases. The quantity of oranges demanded increases, and there's movement down along the demand curve. Oranges are a resource used in the production of orange juice. When the price of an orange falls, it costs less to produce orange juice, and the supply of orange juice increases. The quantity of orange juice demanded increases, and there is a movement down along the demand curve. The equilibrium price of orange juice falls, and the equilibrium quantity increases. Question 3. If the price of frozen yogurt falls, the quantity of ice cream consumed will decrease and the price of ice cream will rise. This statement is false. Frozen yogurt and ice cream are substitutes for consumers. When the price of frozen yogurt falls, people substitute frozen yogurt for ice cream. The demand for ice cream decreases and the demand curve shifts leftward. The equilibrium quantity of ice cream decreases, but the equilibrium price of ice cream falls. There is a change in the quantity of ice cream supplied and a movement down along the supply curve. Question 4 gives a demand and supply schedule for running shoes. Question asks, what is the market equilibrium? And if the price is $70 a pair, describe the situation in the market. Explain how market equilibrium is restored. If a rise in income increases the demand for running shoes by 100 pairs a day at each price, explain how the market adjusts to its new equilibrium. So you tackle that question in several parts. The first part, is that the market equilibrium occurs at a price of $90 a pair and 700 pairs of running shoes a day. And how is that determined? Well, you look at where the demand and the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied intersect. That's at 700, and the price given then is at 90. So where the numbers line up, that's the equilibrium point. And at the price of $90 a pair, the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied. If the price is $70 a pair, the quantity demanded is 900 pairs, and the quantity supplied is 500 pairs. And simply look at the chart, you can see that there on the chart. At the price of 70, quantity demanded 900, quantity supplied 500. So there's a shortage of 400 pairs a day, and the price rises. As the price rises, the quantity demanded decreases, the quantity supplied increases, and the shortage decreases. The price rises until the shortage disappears. That is, the market forces take effect until equilibrium is restored and the shortage disappears. And then for the increase and the new demand schedule, after the increase in income has increased the quantity demanded by 100 pairs of shoes at each price, that schedule is shown up here, and all I did is I added 100 to the original numbers that were given in the first chart. So I can try to get that on up here as well, and you can just see the original chart, and then I just added 100 to all those original quantity demand points. So here's the new points, and the other information remains the same. At the original equilibrium price of $90 a pair, there's a shortage and the price rises. As the price rises, the quantity demanded decreases, the quantity supplied increases, and the shortage decreases. The price rises until the shortage disappears. And then you're probably wondering, well, what's the new equilibrium point? Because there's nothing in here that shows a match between the new quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. The numbers aren't equal. So you have to read between the lines here and assume, even though the data isn't given here, that in between these two prices, there's going to be a new quantity demanded of 750 and a quantity supplied of 750, and that will be the new equilibrium point. So it involves a little bit of guesswork. The price, therefore, most likely rises to $95 a pair, that is the number in between 90 and 100, and the quantity increases to 750 pairs of running shoes a day. So that's an assumption that you, the economist, has to make. Question 5 gives a quote: as more people buy fuel-efficient hybrid cars, the demand for gasoline will decrease and the price of gasoline will fall. The fall in the price of gasoline will decrease the supply of gasoline. Is this statement true? Explain. Well, the first statement is correct. As more people buy fuel-efficient cars, the demand for gasoline will decrease and the price of gasoline will fall. The second statement, though, is false. The demand for gasoline decreases and the demand curve shifts leftward. There is a movement along the supply curve and a decrease in the quantity of gasoline supplied, but there's no change in the supply of supply of gasoline. Question 6 gives a headline: OPEC deadlocked on oil production hike. Oil prices breached the $100 a barrel mark Wednesday after OPEC said it could not reach an agreement about raising crude production. Question states, the instructions state, to draw a graph to show the oil market equilibrium. Suppose that OPEC members had agreed to increase production. Show on your graph the effect of this decision on the market equilibrium. So the market equilibrium in figure 4.1 with demand curve D and supply curve SO is given there. So that's shown here, SO and D, or S0 if you prefer. That's the original point. And this was given somewhat arbitrarily. It's just above $100 for the price. It could have been up here along any of these points above $100 in price. And the initial equilibrium price is $105 per barrel of oil, and the initial equilibrium quantity is 100 million barrels per day. You can see that point here, 105 in the price and the quantity of 120 That's in millions of barrels per day. So if OPEC agreed to increase the supply curve shifts to the right. We know that the supply is going to increase. By how much? Well, it's just a guess. This is a hypothetical to S1 out here. In the figure, the price of barrel of oil falls from $105 per barrel to $90 per barrel, and the quantity increases from 120 million barrels per day to 150 million barrels per day. That is from 120 here to 150 here. And why isn't 160 or why is it 140? Again, this is just arbitrary. It's just moving the supply line out, saying we're going to increase production. We're going to lower this price. And how far will it go? Well, it depends by how much the supply line shifts. So this supply line here, new price here, new quantity down here. Use the following information to work problems 7 and 8. Headline, price your bread and cereal, coming soon. Wheat and corn prices surged about 10% last week and could hit the items in your grocery basket by midsummer. It's a case of two extremes. Dry weather conditions in parts of the southern United States and in Europe have sparked fears of a supply crunch of wheat, while supplies of corn are being threatened by flooding and heavy rain in the Midwest. Question 7 states, explain why the dry weather will lead to a rise in the price of bread. The dry weather decreases the supply of wheat. The price of wheat rises. Wheat is used to produce bread. The higher the price of wheat increases the cost of producing bread. The supply of bread decreases, which raises the price of bread. And I initially highlighted this graph to show you this graph to examine. It's actually for question 8. Use the graph to show why the price of corn has risen and show its effect on the price of cereals. So as stated, the dry weather decreases the supply, in this case of corn, and in the figure 4.2, graph right here, the supply curve shifts leftward from SO to S1. The price of corn rises in the figure from $5.90 per bushel up to $6.10 per bushel. Corn is used to produce cereal. The higher price of corn increases the cost of producing cereal. The supply of cereal decreases, that's shown in figure 4.3 to the right, by the leftward shift from SO to S1. The price of cereal rises in the figure from $2.30 per pound up to $2.50 per pound. Hope that's helpful, giving an overview of the chapter concepts. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for viewing.